Goodness gracious, Fireside Chatters, doing what we do from the Sunshine State. I'm Greg Carlwood, and when it comes to the many mysteries we might explore, from ether physics and exotic energy systems to expanded states of consciousness and high strangeness experiences with bizarre beings, what if a major reason we're still wondering about these things without being able to settle on any solid conclusions is because we lack a complete picture of the nature of reality itself? Even conventional science says 99% of all matter in the universe is plasma, and yet we go through 2 decades of schooling where it's barely even mentioned. Maybe it's worth asking if there is an intentionally engineered ignorance around plasma, because it is the missing context required to understand a wide range of unknowns across a full spectrum of alternative topics. It's certainly hard to solve a puzzle with such a big piece missing, and thankfully today's guest, Dana Kippel, has exactly what we need. She's a self-described plasma nerd whose incarnation into this round of the human story seems almost fated. Not only was her birth father struck by lightning a mere 3 months before her conception, but she's had experiences with entities since a young age, and an intense trauma-triggered download experience in more recent years left her with an overwhelming amount of scientific and esoteric knowledge about plasma's role in pretty much everything that she's taken now 4 years to properly unpack and has now methodically had transcribed through her 800-page superbook, A New Force, Plasma, Consciousness, and the New Human Potential. We've gotten our hands on different parts of the elephant with guests like Aaron Murakami, Eric Dollard, Dr. Greg Little, Andrew Collins, Dr. Joseph Farrell, Dan Winter, Wal Thornhill, David Talbot, George Wiseman, and Kosh. But consider this the Dumbo drop of plasma interviews. Here she is, the plasma polymath puzzle solver, cosmic information teacher, and liaison for Lady Plasma. Dana, welcome to the higher side.
Woo! Oh, wait. Am I also the first girl to talk about plasma?
I think so, yeah. Obviously, that series was
Thank God, we need a woman talking about plasma.
a bit of a
I'm not
sausage
feminist
fest.
or anything, but yeah.
This is a real pleasure. I've been interested in so many topics that seem disconnected, but the commonality, the further you dig, seems to be plasma. It keeps coming up. And I know that you refer to the stuff that you talk about as a bit of a knowing.
Yeah.
You know, you do research, like clearly you do research,
Yeah.
but it also comes to you in another form. Talk to us about that, because the download experience in general is probably the thing I'm most interested in, and people who have those experiences usually can't talk about them all that well.
Yeah. Okay. So the knowing. Yes, I do. I hate using the word downloads because everyone uses it, but I don't know how else to say. Basically, how it works is if I try, it doesn't work. And it's just something like, I don't know what, guiding me throughout my day where, for instance, I'll think about, I want to know today about hydrogen. And then can I curse?
Yeah,
I shit
please
you not.
do.
Okay, I want to, today, for instance, I wanted to think about hydrogen because I didn't know much about it. And I shit you not, all of a sudden, I first looked up something about hydrogen plasma, and then the science fiction book I gave you, I opened up to a page that was talking about mythology and hydrogen. So it's things like that. It's just like, I feel like nature and reality talks to you. And when your intention is, to me, connected with your heart and soul or your destiny, things reveal themselves to you. So I just consider myself open and very focused, and I listen to what I see. And then I use discernment after. So I think it's called negative capability. This is from like the 1700s. This guy, I think his name was William Keats talked about it. But it's basically like being open without grasping. So yeah, I just get information that way. And as far as how the plasma information came to me, I had no intention but to feel better. So that is what's so beautiful about plasma, and my unique angle on like mental health and connection is I just wanted to feel connected because I haven't felt connected my entire life to even myself, reality, people, whatever. And plasma came into my head when I had the intention of wanting to feel better and connected. So I think that's pretty cool.
Right on, right on.
Yeah.
When it comes to your personal story and how the book came to be, relevant details, obviously I said some of this in the intro, but your father was struck by lightning like 90 days before conception.
Yeah.
You also see entities, or you even still, I guess, but as a kid, you used to see entities.
Yeah,
and
more so than, yeah.
This is one of the things, like the notion that they are reflexive of what our emotional state is, has always kind of been out there, but this is your experience, right? From childhood to now, still having a connection to entities. They have changed as your attitude about them has changed, right?
Yeah, 100%. And for instance, even last night, I'm sure a lot of your listeners can relate to this. I can get stuck sometimes in what you could call a pendulum or an egregore. I get stuck in this thought bubble of, oh, because what I'm doing is, risky and revolutionary, someone's going to come kill me because that has happened. But I also remember there are so many people who have not been killed who have done amazing things. And I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And this will get somewhere. But last night I was in that state of fear for whatever reason. It still, plagues me from time to time because I'm human. And basically I was feeling like I don't always see them now, but I was feeling darker entities in my room. And I knew I was resonating with that because of fear. The second, thank God for therapy, I was able to resonate with I simply said, no ritual or anything. I was like, I would like to be in the frequency of love and the frequency of a timeline where I'm safe and I don't get killed and then I'll be fine. And I know this sounds crazy, but this is how my mind works. And right away, it's like the energy in the room changed. Whatever entities were there were love. And I had this revelation, and I might have put this in my book, I might not have, but in the edit, I'm going to. I feel like plasma, as like our cosmic mother, always when we feel fear wants to give us a warm hug. And parents, when we feel fear, hold us tighter. So if plasma is reflecting my fear and she's trying to help me, the more I feel fear, the more she's going to grip me and I'm going to freak the F out. So when I'm able to, it's like almost like the Calvary's not coming, we can save ourselves. So when I can switch my attitude on my own, no one's going to help me with that, then she will reflect love. And immediately I feel supportive instead of squeezed to death. So it's just funny. I know it's anthropomorphizing her, but it really is how it works.
No, I think that makes sense. I actually have had health guests say that, they put a lot of the symptoms that we have in the context of a healing response. And then I've had people say, actually, a healing response can kill you. Yeah. Your body is working so hard to heal. So maybe your fever goes to 105, 106. Yeah. Your healing response can kill you. So yeah,
it can be scary.
Yeah. Like Lenny and the Rabbit, you can love too much. You can try to heal too much.
Yes.
So
yes.
I want to know a little more about the download experience. Like it was triggered from trauma. I've heard you talk about this before. I think it was relationship trauma.
Yeah,
and that, silly. Spiraled into a big trauma tunnel.
Yes, yes.
Well, what was the download like? When did it trigger? And was it like just an instantaneous thing? Was it an out of body thing?
I guess it was a gradual thing. So, the trauma sounds so silly, but once again, I'm not comparing myself to like Carl Jung or any of these inventors who are really famous, but like, we're all human, and what I think people struggle with most is relationships. So it's just kind of embarrassing that other people's, like Jason Patchett, the acquired savant, his trauma is like being beat up in the head and becoming a genius. My heart was broken and I became a genius. But I think I didn't really become a genius, but I connected with myself. And the way that happened was very simply, and this is so embarrassing, and sorry, ex-boyfriend, but it's my truth, is that my ex-boyfriend wanted to be in like an open relationship.
Don't they all?
Don't they all? Especially when they're 25 and you date someone 10 years younger because you're silly. And I will say though, he said that in the beginning of the relationship and it was COVID, and I agreed because I thought we would never see people again. And I was lying. But then a year into it, I told him I didn't want to, right? And I was honest. So then 3 months later after that, I find texts in his phone and he was, sexting girls. And I know this sounds silly, but it really is what happened. And for some reason, because I really never thought I could really trust him. Like I've been betrayed by so many people, and I had 100% trust in him, which I know I shouldn't have had, but I did. Because I was like, oh, he's at least open about his feelings. When I found those texts, and it sounds crazy of them planning to meet up, my heart broke more than any other time it broke ever. And when I had that heartbreak, and I don't know what it felt also like an awakening. All this trauma rushed back of like me feeling disconnected when I was maybe adopted as like a little, baby, not ever feeling very connected with my parents, always feeling like this monster, and all these feelings of like, self-hate, and throughout my addiction when I was younger. So it's just like everything that was like, you're, disgusting, you're not good enough, all came back at once. And that's when I was so desperate to make the pain stop. And I wasn't going to go back to, using drugs or drinking. And I was like, I'm going to try transcendental meditation. So yeah, I'm almost on the story. I know this long-winded, but I went to take a TM course, and that's how it started. I don't do it much anymore, but somehow my first time meditating, I had a very blissful experience. The second time, I felt like I was in the pits of hell. And then I think it was between the third and like seventh time that this plasma thing came to me. So anyway, that was the gradual.
So a plasma thing came to you. Were you at home?
Yes,
did you see it come to you?
Yes. Okay. It's hard to explain, especially because like my memory's not that reliable. No one's is. So all I can remember is I was sitting in Los Angeles in my apartment at my computer desk. I had a Post-it note and I was meditating, and I think I saw the infinity symbol either in my head or right after. And then I didn't hear the words, but I just knew all of a sudden, like, plasma. And then I was like, plasma's intelligent. Plasma's the answer to a lot of things. Like, I don't know. And then I connected the infinity symbol plasma. I wrote down this infinity symbol, and then I connected it like a half donut, like if the infinity symbol, and then you connect it. I was like, oh, well, that's a Taurus. And then I started just making all these weird connections that lasted for 4 years. It's like I knew so much in an instant, and it took 4 years to bring back down to earth. But that's the only way to describe it.
Right on. So it sounds a little like Philip K. Dick's experience, if you've heard that one. Yes. He was focused on a symbol, and it just blew his head open, and he went down the rabbit hole of just having all this information and then trying to get it out. Mm-hmm. So let's get into plasma itself. You say the conventional scientific definition is way too limiting, surprise, surprise, but a better definition is a living ether. Elaborate on the definition for people so they know what we're talking about, because reading your book, it just sounds like it's ubiquitous with everything.
Yes. Wait, can I say something about Philip K. Dick?
Yes.
Just because there is a huge similarity and difference with us that is important, I think, for anyone to know, that's because more and more people are going to have these things happen. What I've observed, and most people, including myself for a very long time, don't have the nervous system for this kind of light or knowledge. Because of trauma, it's very hard to hold things this expansive. So it results usually in isolation, addiction, paranoia. I've made sure to take such good care of my mental health because of how much fear and intense energy comes with this. And I wish he did that too. And I'm not, saying anything bad about him because I struggle with the same mental health stuff, but I'm saying that it's very important to take care of your nervous system. And I think that's where the disconnect was with him, and maybe why some people say he went, a little bit off the deep end. So I just want to share that.
I think that makes sense.
Yes. Good, clean nervous system health. Okay. What is the question with plasma?
What is plasma? Basically, what's a more nuanced understanding of it? What came from the download?
Okay, a lot, and I've been able to put it in human words. So yeah, plasma, instead of the scientific definition of an ionized gas, free electrons and positive ions, it's almost like a soup. Yes, that's in science. Basically, it also means that it's instead of something solid, it's just, plasma's all around us. It's an ocean, if you really think about it. And my expanded version of a living ether is basically hey, there is a finer plasma that maybe we cannot see or haven't had the tools to test yet. And as above, so below, just like at the base reality is quark gluon plasma, what came right after the so-called Big Bang, or I call Big Birth, or what happens in the CERN colliders when that comes out of basically everything. Just like that makes up our reality, what makes up the subconscious reality, I think, is also a plasma. It's just a finer plasma that makes when we dream, that has to be some kind of substance. What the F is it? So anyway, I started kind of putting that all together and realizing that it's all just a spectrum of plasma, down even humans, which are a more dense plasma. It's if it's a plasma ocean, we're each a bubble, and we have our own kind of bioplasma and the torus and our aura, and yeah, it's just turtles all the way down, plasmas all the way down.
Yes, I like that. I think that's a good analogy. Your book is full of good analogies, but to say we are bubbles in an ocean explains how there's a larger plasma and a smaller set of individuals that are out there.
Yes.
So when it comes to the beings that you see, that people see, that we call angels or demons or aliens, I've heard you talk about this, and it makes a lot of sense. Like, you have a pretty good breakdown of what people are seeing. Let us have it.
There basically are, I've categorized them, even though they're hard to categorize, into 5D and 4D. I feel like, and they all use, usually what I find is this pool of like 4D plasma, almost as like, Robert Temple uses the word overcoats with plasma, but like clay overcoats. If you picture like the singularity of a black hole and something coming through the event horizon and that cloaking them and then coming into this reality, that's the easiest way to explain it as a visual. So when like 5D beings, which are just beings of intelligence, I think there may be like a mix of our kind of like future selves. I don't really claim to know, but they seem to be guiding us, whatever people see them as. And I feel like when they come to us, some people may have an experience where they see them as sacred geometry or holographic mists, or they might come as an angel or as any kind of cultural symbol that that person is comfortable with. They actually respond to our nervous system. That can come to us in any moment, in times of grief, love, whatever. It doesn't really matter, I feel, where we're resonating. It's just kind of like what's meant almost divinely to come to us. Then there are the 4D plasma beings. So these also come in these overcoats, and we can see them as demons, as aliens, as witches, as shadow people, as angels, as well as dakinis, whatever you can see them as. Based on what you grew up in your culture or your spiritual beliefs, or sometimes just what you saw on TV. Like, I had sleep paralysis that a basketball player threw his head at me because I think I was watching basketball the night before. So that they're all kind of, just coming to whatever's like familiar to us, I guess, like what our nervous system can handle so we don't go actually insane, even though some of them can be very scary. And these 4D beings are beings not of intelligence, they're of information. They come to you with what you're resonating. So if I'm resonating in fear, I will probably attract those. And they will be two types of information. There'll be unconscious information from other people, like demons, like real demons that people like made up and everyone believes in them and now they're like real entities. Like, those can come to people in really dark times. You can also have something come to you that has to do with your trauma and will remind you of your trauma. That's like a scary being or whatever. And but they're all to grow you. And if we can keep that in mind, that this is all for our evolution and to almost like reveal the intelligence or the information underneath it, depending on if it's like 5D or 4D, when we can open to the real truth inside and not let our perspectives reflect off that plasma, that's when it gets really interesting. And, people have gnosis and, think of new inventions and, become thought leaders, blah, blah, blah. So hopefully I'm making friggin' sense. Jesus, Lord.
Yeah.
I get nervous.
No, me too. And I've done this for so long. But I love the idea that they are spirits inside a plasma sheath, and that this plasma is a neutral medium. These are quotes from your book, programmed with benevolence from these higher beings. It reflects things on one level, so the way you come to it shapes the experience. On a deeper level, you say it will reveal more hidden truths. And this is another quote. So you say, there's a fascinating area of study I came across that may explain why we see UAPs and UFOs as metallic discs in the sky. It's called the Jellium model.
Yeah.
Explain that.
If I can remember everything I wrote about the Jellium model, but I believe that in the Jellium model, steel and certain metals have very similar properties to plasma. I have not researched it in depth, but the way I kind of view it in my mind, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, is when we see UFOs as steel, they're just like very dense or sped up plasma. Or they're some type of metal that's not from this earth that is plasma. It is like just a plasma that looks metallic that is like, like Lockheed Martin has, that's kind of like shape-shifting metal. I mean, those all have ionized behaviors, so they're literally all plasmas. But yeah, the Jellium model, for people to look up, there's a wealth of knowledge in there. And if I had a PhD, I could say it in a more elegant way.
I mean, I could just read a quote. That makes it easy too.
Go ahead.
So this is why I come prepared, people. But the Jellium model describes a sea of free-moving electrons within metals, which gives rise to conductivity. Interestingly, this mirrors the nature of plasma, where charged particles move freely and remain unbound. This similarity suggests that what we perceive as metallic UFOs may not be solid in the conventional sense, but rather plasmatic in structure, appearing metallic due to high electron density and reflectivity. This could explain why these craft seem to shapeshift or alter form mid-flight.
Yes.
Their structure may be dynamic, more like a plasma field mimicking solid matter through resonance and coherence. If so, they are not just machines, but conscious, adaptive, plasma-based intelligences utilizing a new form of plasmatic computing beyond quantum. Responsive to intention and frequency, their so-called metal may be an intelligent interface, fluid, reactive, and alive, and maybe the ones that have crashed have been those metals programmed to solidify, close, or shut down upon impact.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think that's really
Good
great.
job, Dana.
Well, yeah, think about how many people have been looking at UFOs for how many decades.
Yeah.
And there's never an explanation for why they shapeshift, why some seem like actual vehicles, and then some look like orbs. And this explains that.
It does.
So to me, I think that you're really onto something. Like,
I know.
This deserves a real attaboy.
I know, right?
Attagirl, I guess.
Thank you.
And
I feel like I am too.
so this last part here about the ones that have crashed.
Yes.
This comes up in Diana Pasulka's work. I don't know if you've read American Cosmic, but she was kind of initiated into the inner circle of this invisible college. They go out to the desert, and some of these people in the deep state, Nexus, they just know there's places in the desert where they can go, and these metals will be left from them. They call it the gifting fields.
Interesting.
This might be an aspect of the whole phenomenon you don't know a lot about, but what do you think about that? That some of them, I mean, that they seem to become so solid and they're not moving around or anything. It's almost like if it's a plasma sheath, it's almost like a cocoon. It's been released and left there in the desert.
Yeah.
And then people find it and analyze it and they say, oh, all the ions are different. This is metal from space.
Yes. And I think maybe it might not work because we'd be way further along, or I think we may have heard rumblings by now if they were further along. I think they're very confused, and maybe don't say that out loud, but I did. Right. So, yeah, I think that what they may be missing is that plasma harmonizes with our consciousness. These are beings of higher consciousness or of more evolved consciousness, not in a derogatory way like we're stupid, but just know how to work with plasma dynamics in an interdimensional way. And when these beings are using the plasma, it has to do with like their consciousness mixing with it. So when you're studying plasma like it's a trapped unicorn, it's not going to reveal its magic to you. So they can have fun studying pieces of metal and making planes when we really should be doing like way cooler stuff.
Fair enough. So another thing I was going to bring up with Diana Pasulka's work, and I'm sure the audience is sick of me saying this, but we don't get these kind of details very often.
Yeah.
And she recently did an interview where she said Tyler D., Tim Taylor, this guy who works at NASA who brought her in, she said that she saw pictures and had it explained to her these rituals they do with rocketry. They write Latin phrases on the outside. They write the names of ancient gods on the outside. And she said to him, why are you doing this before you send a rocket to space? Like, who's going to read that? And he said, our sponsors. So there's just this thing. I've always thought rocketry was a little occulty, that it had more to do with the occult than it had to do with a distant planet. But now there's this like these details that kind of show us that they don't need to get these rockets anywhere except up into the upper levels of the realm.
I mean, our plasma magnetosphere.
That's what I'm saying. So it seems like if they get it up to the plasma magnetosphere, something talks back to them. It recognizes what they've done, and like a game of telephone, it talks back. Does that make sense to you, given what you know?
Yeah, I mean, I've literally never heard of that, but given what I know, if for instance, if it is a cult, and a cult usually comes with rituals, and that's how they're communicating with it, the plasma field responds to belief. So once again, it's I would call that an egregore of a lot of those people thinking that if they're responding to an entity, if an entity is responding to those things, then that's an entity they've either built or has been built for a long time. So that's completely, especially, that it is the magnetosphere, ionosphere, like it's all it's like our plasma membrane, just like a cell. So yeah, that makes complete sense. And what I would say to them and everyone is that what is so cool about plasma is you can have your own relationship with it. So like they think that works, but it can work making up your own little thing with it too. So there's a lot to explore there. But yeah, it tracks.
And the idea that it responds to belief, this is why, I've interviewed a lot of people who say, I have these experiences, the grays come in my room and I say, in the name of Jesus Christ, be gone. And they're gone. And so then they're like, so now I'm a Christian and I know that everything in the Bible is 100% true. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Maybe I think maybe there's enough momentum behind the idea of Jesus that like it responds. Or maybe it's essentially you saying, maybe the important part is the be gone part. Not the in Jesus' name part.
It's the feeling.
Yeah, it's the vibe.
Yeah.
You're putting out the vibe.
It's the truth encased in the plasma belief of Jesus.
There you go. There you go.
No, you're right.
When it comes to ufology, though, I've thought about this before. So, like the idea of the gray, is there even a real gray? Because it could be a total fabrication.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a gray? Something that looked like that?
No, they don't resonate with me. I've never seen it in my life. I've only seen these light beams. I know people who have seen grays, and they've asked me about them, and I don't have a very popular opinion about grays, but do you want me to share it?
Yeah, I assume it's a fabricated archetype, and then we see it because it's been given to us.
Yeah, I think it's one of those. I actually think it is created by human fear. I wouldn't call it evil, but it's just fear, and they come to us because all of us, yes, it's created by human fear. So yes, it's a 4D archetype. It is also a little bit of a distraction because, it's easy to get, I don't want to be offensive to anyone because I get obsessed with things too, everyone. But it's easy to get obsessed with grays and forget, the real disclosures more about these intelligent beings that really are family and are very like whimsical and playful, and we can have a direct connection to them. Like there's really nothing to be scared. That's why all the spiritual greats are like, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. It's because like that is what makes all these things. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and I believe everyone that has experiences with them because they are real, but it's like you can also not resonate with them and then they're not real. It's real and it's not real.
Yeah, obviously it's a little paradoxical. The way we're talking about things is
fine.
Like you can have an archetype build up. A cultural engineer, let's say, could seed an archetype and then you adopt it and then you see it in a different context. It does become real. Like realness is kind of in a gray liminal space with this. But I've thought this about the grays. You have Crowley writing his grimoire, and Lam is in there. And then years later, you have Whitley Strieber, which a lot of people think he's an op. I like Whitley Strieber, but there's clearly something going on there. He's talked about the experimentation that happened to him as a child. So he might even be
I had those memories, by the way, and it turned out to be horrible trauma. So I just want to put that out there. Like my mind made it into that I was abducted and experimented on when I really think I had, trauma that I won't talk about right now. But it's just, I'm not saying that's true with everyone. But like, for instance, even if you have not trauma and you're just like in a fear state as a kid, like for instance, I actually think, this is just my opinion, and maybe people resonate with this. I think these beings who have always been there for me to protect me were there for me when this trauma was occurring. And at the time I felt abducted and like I literally have a memory of them with clipboards looking at me and I was on the wall like that, like almost like, and then the more I think about how everything's optically constructed and not real and they're all just responses to our feelings, I think in my trauma, I was feeling those same feelings. So I was seeing this stuff when it really was there were these beings protecting me. And I was able to kind of see the truth of that once I worked through this trauma. So anyway, that's just my opinion. I'm not saying that happened to him though.
Fair enough. Well, there is definitely a cultural response from the 70s, or well, even going back to Roswell in 47, the idea of the gray. They had the alien autopsy footage, which looks like a clear hoax, but it presented the archetype of the gray and all these things. And then Hollywood, like it just gets put out there and then suddenly people are seeing them in their room. But I will say this. So when I got married, like most people, there's going to be people from different areas of your life coming together who really wouldn't normally interact. And at my wedding, some guys started a conversation about seeing these things in their room at night.
Yeah.
Friends of mine that I never knew had these experiences.
Yeah.
Never, ever knew. But you have a couple of drinks, you start talking, and then they start comparing notes about what they see. And they're both
similar.
like, yeah, it's like that for me. It's like that for me. And the thing that I thought was interesting, both of them said they're just like shadow beings or even like a hag. One referred to
Yeah,
them as a
I've had
hag
those too.
attack. And they say that the beings tend to just look at them until they get really, really scared, and then they rush them, and then there's like almost like a blackout experience.
I've had that with a hag where she dragged me to the corner of my room and like brought me this weird hole. Like I've had crazy shit like that. But I mean, they're all, as I said, now with understanding, they're all these, you know, whether it's made of fear or unconscious things, like they're all real. But it was because also I was in a huge state of fear. So like you can energetically protect yourself from these experiences by literally just not being in a state of fear. Like there really is nothing to be scared of. And yes, it feels very real and scary, and it is real, and paradoxically it's real and not at the same time. Yeah. Because I mean, even like a few weeks ago, I used to judge people who actually would say this. I woke up and there was like a Bigfoot looking Yeti in my bed with me, just like this, like looking at me. And I was like, okay, well, I'm clearly going nuts. And then it just fizzled away. And I know by now though that symbolism or that archetype like meant something, like protective, whatever reason that was just there. But like I know by now, whatever I see, I take it with a grain of salt, and it's what the plasma stuff is, my studies have shown me, is that it's the meaning more than like what we're seeing. And we never should be like, oh, I'm a Bigfoot worshiper now because I saw Bigfoot. It's like, no, like all of these things have meaning for us, and it's just the amazing intelligence of this universe. And there's more trying to communicate with us than you'd realize. And it comes in many shapes and forms.
Let's go into some of the more data stuff rather than personal. But you have a great deal of mythology and ancient culture material in the book. Australian Aborigines, shamanic cultures, the Dogon, the Greeks, ancient India. Talk to us about the plasma context for understanding these ancient cultures and their cosmologies.
Oh my God, there's so many. I mean, yeah, it started with like the dream world and everyone. That's like the first one I researched for my book. And basically in that time, it was a more, I would say, like of a non-crystallized reality. So it was like a more plasmatic state, not like liquid as in like we're all liquid, but
somewhat fluid.
Yeah, somewhat fluid in the terms of like, once again, everything we're seeing, right, is like pixels and optics and our brains making sense of things. But we're really just looking at, I mean, I see pixels when I see. So like we're literally just looking at tons of pixels that are a shared reality, but also have to do with our belief system. So back in this time, it wasn't really as much about, I would say, like belief systems as it was just like they were working with the elements in nature, and like it was more fanciful and like fluid. And consciousness obviously has evolved over time. So back then it was all merged. Like plasma and consciousness was kind of together, if that makes sense. And then I feel like there was some sort of separation. Like, for instance, we can get into like Shiva and Shakti, or the dragon Tiamat, I think was the name. There was this dragon Tiamat. She was, I would call the divine feminine plasma. And then she existed with these, you know, the townspeople or beings of consciousness. And they separated her into heaven and earth. And then they kind of separated from her. And to me, it marked the separation of consciousness and plasma. And just like any teenager who goes to college and anyone who leaves their parents, it's crazy how everything connects. Plasma and consciousness used to be more together in dream time. And then consciousness actually chose to leave, to separate, to grow. And now in this like age of Aquarius or whatever people want to call it, that's a fanciful term, but like our consciousness is coming back to this mother, this plasma, as an adult with a more refined tool or brain, and is ready to harmonize with her. And just like, you know, we come back to our parents and realize, oh, we understand you now. We don't hate you as much as we thought. It was all a projection of our psychotic teenageness. So, and Shiva and Shakti, for instance, Shiva is consciousness and Shakti is plasma. I found a lot of interesting correlations there, even down to, I think it's called a Shakonta. It's spelled Shakonta. And it is like, I think it's 5 triangles up and 4 down, but it resembles Shiva and Shakti together. It makes a hexagram. And it also, plasma is quasi-neutral and leans a little bit feminine or into the electron. And this Shikanta thing, however you say it, everyone knows I'm bad at saying things, but it represents basically to me literally plasma. So anyway, I thought that was cool. There's so much mythology. If you have, I'll let you go.
Fair. So, yeah. Well, just to quote the book and encapsulate the pattern, you say there's an ancient pattern reflected in the structure of reality. The father is consciousness, the mother is plasma, and the divine child is awareness. These archetypes are not bound to religion, but appear again and again across spiritual traditions, encoded in language, symbol, and geometry. They map onto the cosmos itself.
Everywhere.
What about the divine child, awareness? So this gets into all kinds of stuff, because in the book you go into how to emotionally heal. You go into essentially manifestation without liking the word manifestation, finding your deeper truth and living with it in the life you're supposed to have, the perspective you're supposed to have, like going whole hog into that. That all comes down to this divine child awareness. Talk to us about that aspect that isn't quite as obvious as the other two.
Sure. Sorry, I'm stuck on something you said. As far as the it's almost like, Holy Trinity kind of thing, like mother, father, child. One thing I wanted to say about that, everything in the future, I think, is going to be more triadic than binary. So I just see that being a huge thing, almost like with the yin yang. It's like everyone focuses on the dark and light, but they forget like the circle behind it. And it's like all of that together makes reality. So yeah, I think in the future, a lot of even computer stuff will be more triadic in that way. But yes, I had to get that out of my mouth. So the divine child, what did you want to know about it?
Well, awareness. Oh. How is awareness this third component of the Trinity?
Yeah, so I would see it. So it's almost like a Trinity, but a secret diamond too. So it's almost like our awareness, or what I call our multidimensional self, is up here. Then there's consciousness and plasma, almost as like an infinity sign. And it uses both of these almost as like your hands to mold reality, which is the divine child. So we could call reality the divine child. We could call ourselves the divine child. We can call matter the divine child. It is basically anything that is created from plasma and consciousness, or a mother and father. And what is so beautiful about the divine child is, with the word child, reality, what we've forgotten, should be about play. Like I think it's called Leela, or divine play, which is associated with Shiva and Shakti. But reality should be all about play and whimsicalness. And it doesn't mean dark things don't happen. It just means having this more playful, unattached perspective that we have lost. And I think going into the future and now, we are going to have more of that. And that even comes down to math and science. It's like, everyone needs to pick their wedgies and like stop being so scholarly. It is so, you can be smart and funny. Like, are you the smartest people I read about, like Albert Einstein or Winston Churchill, were known to be like goofy and children. I mean, even Albert Einstein has his tongue sticking out. Nikola Tesla was like obsessed with pigeons and ate really weird time. Like, everyone's just weird. So I don't know why we're all pretending to be cool.
Embrace your weirdness.
Yes,
Embrace
but
your
like
weirdness.
Really though.
Yeah, on the subject of Tesla, so I actually had the patent. I mean, who cares the number of the patent? But you mentioned the Lockheed Martin thing, where they have explored and filed patents related to technologies that are basically shape-shifting metals. And so, this plasma context of shape-shifting metals, it's already here in a company like Lockheed Martin. So It's not that weird to think that it exists in another context. But on the subject of Tesla, this is a quote about X-rays, something that stuck out from your book.
Yes.
So you say, Tesla, like Crookes, was deeply engaged with radiant matter / plasma. His experiments with high-energy electromagnetic interactions led to some strange phenomenon: unexplained voices, disturbances, and hints of non-local intelligence. While he never fully published these findings, he strongly hinted at their existence. If plasma is indeed a vehicle for consciousness and information, as I believe, then X-rays interacting with plasma fields might generate or detect signals beyond our normal sensory perception.
Yeah.
Sadly, instead of following Crookes' advice to go straight on exploring these forces, X-rays were rapidly commercialized and confined to medical imaging and industrial applications. What if X-rays were more than just a tool for seeing bones? What if they were a lost key to interdimensional communications, capable of revealing not just physical structures, but informational ones as well?
Yes.
I mean,
I
hot
agree.
damn.
I agree.
Apparently, you agree with what you wrote?
I don't know how to prove it, but it was just funny hearing what I wrote just because it's like, when you write, you're kind of in a trance.
So many authors say that. And, you mentioned the synchronistic aspect of writing and finding what you're looking for right when you're writing. And it just keeps you going on the track. There's definitely some strange stuff at play, I think, in that whole thing. But it kind of goes back to attention, an awareness and focus and being in the moment. All these are terms to kind of try to describe this state where you are in the moment, for lack of another one of these terms. And you're focused on a singular task, and the universe kind of helps you along. Like you would help a kid play with something. You're like, oh no, you need to put the block here or do this.
Our mother and father, whoever they are.
Consciousness and plasma, apparently.
No, for real.
Well, what do you think? This isn't in your book, but what do you think about crop circles? Because when you look at, like, I've seen people make posters of here's 200 crop circles, and there's always some kind of pattern to them where some people say they're exotic energy systems. Some say they're 2D representations of 3D mathematics or something. Some people have said that they are stellar configurations, which I could also see because there's a lot of orbs, and you could say, oh, they're trying to express that there's this time period which they can't use human time. So they say, looking up at the stars, here's what the map of the stars will look like at this important time. There's all kinds of weird explanations for what they could be. I think the technology thing makes sense, but from a plasma perspective, I would imagine you're kind of on that page too.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it now. So I do think, number one, it's weird that crop circles were kind of talked about, and then like now they're almost never, and then they are again. Like it's weird that they're not more like studied, if that makes sense. Like it just feels like a very underground, underkept thing. So I think that's weird. And then as far as like, I think plasma, like these higher beings of consciousness probably use some type of plasma laser or kind of plasma thing to make them, because it would explain how you make them so fast and there's no heat that's given off. Like it doesn't create fires by making these things. So to me, it would make perfect sense that using plasma somehow is how these things are created. And as far as like what they are, I can't claim to obviously know that, but everything you're saying tracks. And then I'm just trying to think if there's anything else, I'd maybe say kind of this symbol staring thing, to maybe if we stare at them with more of like an open, receptive mind, like, and see what comes through, that would be interesting for someone to do a study on that.
Fair.
Yeah.
So while we're still in the first hour, I want to talk about how people can use this information, because that is a huge section of your book. You talk about the bioplasma bubble. You talk about the nuance of emotion, the fact that we're here with some true purpose in mind, and we just need to look inward and that kind of stuff. And a lot of times I struggle with those terms. They just seem too vague to me.
Yeah.
But talk to people about what this plasma context can do for them if they, go whole hog into it, and, the value of this. What would it do for their lives if they learned about this kind of stuff from the perspective of
mental health?
Mental health, and the nuances of emotion.
I think I'm a perfect test subject for it, because I, went from, and I'm still going from being like a person riddled with fear and sometimes even paranoia and complete disconnection with life, and having not good relationships, experiencing a lot of betrayal, and being scared of my own mind kind of thing. Like I went from just all these distortions, and plasma, like single-handedly mixed with like maybe some, of course, other things, because we all use other people's stuff, like brought me back into connection with myself, my true power, with believing. I mean, I was literally someone, in their room, like doing nothing with their life 4 years ago. And now to see just how I've grown, I can't attribute it to anything but myself and plasma, So I think all the stuff I teach in my book, I wouldn't teach anything that didn't work for me, but I think I guess the future applications are the most exciting. For instance, like I'm just going to say it might sound like lunacy, but in the future, maybe in our lifetime, I don't know, I believe that we're going to almost just like anything can evolve. Like a caterpillar can be a butterfly. Sounds like crazy ass magic, but it's science, because it literally looks so different. It's so weird. We can do that if we heal our emotions and learn how to use them in different ways. And if we gain more control or harmony with our consciousness, with ourselves, and start to heal this fear and trauma, we free up a lot of energy to start learning how to harmonize with plasma or reality, which can result in telekinesis or telepathy. I'm not saying that I can do all these things right now. I think it's possible. I've seen little glimmers of things that are interesting, and I plan to make this obviously my life study. So I'm not just saying this stuff and never do it. Like I will quit before that happens. But I do see that that's the natural progression of humanity, is healing our fear or this 4D plasma and learning how to literally consciously use reality almost as like our palette. And I think that anyone who chooses to connect with the word plasma or just wants to call it reality or whatever they want to call it, if anyone who heals themselves using these teachings with plasma, they don't have to call it plasma, will benefit from it. And I mean, the results for me have just been like me in my life, and the fact that I went from no following to a bigger following, and how many people, resonate with this stuff. And that's all because I felt like I followed my soul and gut and connected with this stuff. I think anyone can benefit off it. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure there's people listening that are like, bullshit. I think about my desires and goals all the time, and yet I'm no closer. I think about my own experience, and like having this show work was a really unlikely scenario. But in retrospect, with hindsight, it does seem like I was singularly focused, just really motivated to put all my energy behind making it work. And the hate of the job fueled the desperation to make me do nothing but this until it worked.
Yeah.
I don't know if everyone has that level of dedication to their dreams and goals. I often say that if I just hated my job a little less, this probably wouldn't have happened. No. I would have gave up on it.
No,
because I have friends who are pretty happy with jobs that I think seem like they would drive me nuts. And I used to be jealous of that because I was like, man, ignorance is bliss. It would be so much easier for my life if I could be happy with one of these mediocre jobs.
Yeah.
Sadly, I can't. So now I'm in a desperate position to throw a Hail Mary to ever find happiness. Luckily it worked out.
Yeah.
But you say your life is not random, it's responsive.
Yes.
So respond with wonder, let your awareness lead, and the universe follows your melody. Well, I think a lot of people would be like, that sounds great. It's poetic. But how do I do it? How do we engage with it and actually get it to respond?
Yeah. Well, I think just you're a good example of it, though, as am I, as are anyone. Number one, what is success, right? Because for some people, it's not money. For some people, it's happiness. For some people, it's having a great body. For some people, it's eating clean. For some people, it's having nice clothes. Or for some people, it's having great relationships. So I think the first thing to identify is like, what is success to you? And then it's like, okay, how do you want to get that? Or what do you want to achieve? And then understanding that there is some surrender and failing forward to the process. Like, even if I'm getting my specific dream, I know, number one, it aligns with my heart and soul. I didn't always foresee myself doing that. Reality unfolded day by day, as I'm sure it might have for you. Like, maybe you had some idea, but that is the cool thing about plasma and its emergent behaviors, is like, you can't just say, oh, I'm going to do this and then do it and it's manifested. That's why I think all that stuff is bullshit, or sometimes ends up empty. Like, Jim Carrey said he wanted to get famous. He got famous and he was a little bit miserable. This is different. This I would call maybe, emergent living or whatever, where you do have bad things. Bad things can happen. And you just take them as they come instead of worrying about them every moment of the day. And that's another thing with healing yourself and training your brain as to why you are okay thinking about all those things, because they take up so much energy. Just what I would say to everyone, because I've been there, I was 20, I was homeless, I was in and out of halfway houses. Like, if someone told me this, it would have sounded nice too, but I would have been like, okay, like, my life literally is terrible. I just was in a trap house the other day. Like, what are you talking about? It would give me hope, but yes, it might be hard to relate. But all I would say is that it really does take like a few days of this kind of thinking, not just that you can manifest what you want, but of surrendering and figuring out what you really want to do in your heart and soul, and just letting every day unfold and starting to just build your life around like different ways of thinking. It's not a quick fix. Everything that's a quick fix is snake oil, but it's just about like shifting your life. And eventually one day you wake up and you're like, holy fuck. And I can't say anything else is true because that's my truth. And I will argue to say if someone's truth is this will never happen to me, then it might never happen to you because it's your truth and the plasma is reflecting that. I'm sorry.
Well, even with the health people I talk to, it's about belief. You know, they'll say, do you believe that you can actually heal yourself? You have to believe it first, like Joe Dispenza's work. He has this process where he'll take on a new client and he'll show them the data that you can self-heal. Here's 50 examples of it. And then you start to think, maybe I can self-heal. And then maybe eventually you do. But what I always think about when it comes to this stuff is like,
I know what you're going to say.
that random things happen. Like,
there are people who don't heal.
Well, there's people who don't heal, but also like the idea of intention and focus and being in the now and then driving your reality. Well, what are we saying about people who die in car crashes because they were being careless, because they were so convinced nothing bad could happen, and then boom, something bad happens? Or medical tragedies where people go into the hospital because they believe and trust Western medicine wholeheartedly, and then they are the victim of medical malpractice. And so many examples where at the end of the day, people say, I never thought that could happen to me. And you don't know what's going on in someone's head. So maybe they're saying that, but they actually did manifest a fear. Really, it's just like so many things do surprise us in life. So how can we say that manifestation is what's happening, co-creation and all these buzzwords are just constantly being thrown out there? But like, does that match when these experiences happen?
I think everything is co-created, and it's hard to hear that. But I mean, I've been through some really dark things, and I still understand I've co-created them. Whether I chose them, I mean, the darkest things in my life have brought out some of the best things in my life, and I know that's not the truth for everyone. But for instance, like my dad passed in January. I had to watch him, die through a coma. It was very traumatic. Watch him choke on his own blood and all these really disgusting things. And that led to a huge catalyst of my life getting weirdly better. But it was such a horrible time. And I really questioned like suffering and knowing people suffer. Even on the way here, I passed a car accident where someone was dead on the road and a sheet was over them. And I was like, oh my God. And I mean, that's the truth about no matter what we talk about here, it really is the truth. And I'm sure I say this in my book, like as someone who experiences dark and light stuff, like, yes, you could die tomorrow. You could take Joe Dispenza and not heal. Like you could get cancer. And it's about, I think it's the book or a movie called, maybe it's Lion or something, where this guy's on a ship and he's stranded with these animals. And he gets home, and this news guy interviews him, and he's like, he said these animals saved him on a ship, and that's how he got to land. And he was like, I'm paraphrasing, but the news guy was like, were there really animals on the ship that saved you? Because some people, these animals were actually just personifications of his parents who were dead on the ship the whole time. And he hallucinated that there were animals that saved him. And he's like, well, which story would you want to believe? So it might, there's terrible things that happen everywhere, and it could happen to you. Do you want to spend time thinking about that, or do you want to think about good things? And then, if something bad does happen, take it as it comes. And as hard as it is to hear, and as hard as for me to even think when I go through really dark times, it's like these things will either help me or are contributing to a grander plane of earth that I will never fucking understand. And I'm very annoyed that this is happening to me. But that's the beauty of surrender, and it's also tragic, and that's just life.
We say surrender, but then also you're talking about kind of not taking the reins, really. Terrence McKenna, it is. Terrence McKenna said the universe runs on narrative, and I definitely have some of the more magic-y people in my life say, give yourself a better story about certain things. Like you can kind of move yourself into a different story and then kind of go with that track,
because they're all stories.
Right. Joe Rogan has said, for all his flaws, he has said, imagine you are the superhero or you're the hero of the story. You're the main character in the movie. And the movie starts with the main character hating their life and hating their job and being out of shape and having all these problems. And then most movies are a growth, a story of growth. So imagine you're at the beginning part and you're about to go through this growth. Like, I think that's probably a good way to approach life.
Yeah.
But a lot of people think about the things they don't have, why can't I get a job that pays me well?
Yeah.
The goddamn Rockefellers have fucked banking up so bad.
I used to think about all that stuff.
Yeah. And as conspiracy guy, I do too. You know, the other day I was like, maybe I need to get into the gun range more because shit's about to pop off with this Iran situation.
I almost got a gun the other day.
Well, there you go.
To protect myself. But you know what I said to myself then? I was like,
the plasmas will protect
well, it's
me.
the fucking, it really is funny though. No, I mean, the truth is the truth I was thinking is someone could literally kill me at any time if they wanted to. I have absolutely no control. And that's where the surrender comes in. It's like, because I wanted to get a gun to protect myself. And I was like, okay, but let me just try as an experiment. Like, if I do believe I'm safe in this timeline, like either it works out or it doesn't, but I'll be a lot less stressed until I get killed.
I think about that sometimes too. Like, you want to have control, and the people who have guns are like, well, I have more control over my situation. It's like, you are driving 80 miles an hour, 6 inches from a semi truck.
It can kill you in a second.
Like multiple times a day sometimes.
Yes.
How much control do you really have? You really are trusting the universe that, you know, you're not going to go before your time, I guess. But I think it's interesting that your story is you got this download experience. You start talking about plasma all the time, and then the government comes knocking at your door. It's a little like Chris Bledsoe. He had this experience.
Yeah, he had the same thing.
Yeah. And I know, obviously, you did Ryan's podcast. I think I've said that a couple of times, but you also did it live and were there with him. And the night before, you did take him up on the offer that he gave to me, which is come on out. We have orbs all over the place.
Did you see stuff?
I didn't go yet.
Oh
but
my God.
You did see stuff.
Dude, yes. And like, I would never believe me. So I don't expect anyone to believe me. But like, literally though, like, okay, so like, I didn't even expect to see orbs. And I saw orbs last night. Now I'm seeing them all the time. So like, I see them all the time now. But what I haven't seen since, and I think it is because, you know, it's not scary, but it is just like, it does kind of, what's the word? Ontological shock. Like, it does kind of break your reality. Like, there were these two literal cylindrical beings, almost like just like a blurrier light that swooped right over us. And you could totally call them angels, but like, I just think that's the biblical application. There's Zoroastrians with wings. There's so many things with wings, but like, whatever it was 100% real. And I thought there was like a projector on his garage. I was like, holy fuck. But like, the fact that what I felt, that's why I knew it was real too. Like, yeah, like your eyes plays tricks on you, but like the feelings I got from it and like the downloads I had, like, I was like, oh my God, like, it was great.
Well, I heard you say that, well, I read it in the book that you say that when you had those experiences at the property, the Bledsoe property, you understood the bird person archetype, the angel archetype, the humanoid figure with wings, and why it's so ubiquitous in our past and mythologies, because you're like, there it was. It was a
makes
plasma
sense
being.
now.
And, you know, these are often beings of light, even in the realm of occult magic type stuff.
Yeah.
You draw the pentagram, you do the incantation, you see a being that comes out of light. It manifests out of nothing. So there has to be like some context for all this stuff. And it does seem to be plasma.
Yes, I think so.
So do you think that we're going to start wrapping up here in a minute, but do you think that they suppress knowledge of plasma because obviously they want us to have less context. They want us to be more rooted in the external type stuff. But do you think that they are aware that if they restore a plasma context, a living ether context, that we will start learning about these other things that we've talked about?
I will say I do think that things have been suppressed. I will say that I'm sure 70% of it was national security, which is like why the thunderstorm generator, the Oregon energy, like all that stuff, Tesla, like all that stuff, I can see how it was matters of national security. I still don't agree with the government suppressing it. I think it's like, once again, they're just from a fear state and care so much about like suppression. But I do think it's like 70% that. 30%, I hate to say this, but like, yes, we're easier to control when we don't know these things in these contexts. But once we know how much power we really do have as individuals, at least for me, like, I feel so free. And when I don't feel free, it really is my own fear. Like, and I could have someone come in tomorrow and be like, no, squash you, you're a bug, you're not free, like whatever. But like, I feel free. And what I feel no one can take from me, even if I was put in jail or locked away. Like, I have this inner world no one could take. And I think the best is yet to come as far as people realizing like what they're capable of. And of course you'd want to suppress that if you're trying to like sell people stuff from like big commercial brands and like trying to get people into materials when it's like life's not, everything in life that's beautiful is literally free. So yeah, it makes sense. And yes, I really do think a lot of it has been suppressed. Some of it I think has been suppressed from them just being fearful. And I think some has been suppressed on purpose. And I think that some of it almost is like, it's almost like the fear and the, not stupidity, the fear and the ignorance of like being like, oh, this isn't just scientific. This is paranormal. And like, how do we, like, where do we go from, like, the whole world will change if they were to admit this.
Okay. Well, yes. And that's, maybe this is a good thing to go out on, but
Sure.
I've heard you say in that Ryan Bledsoe interview that you talk to an entity like the lady all the time.
Yeah.
And
Celadeus.
Is that it?
Celadeus. Celadeus.
Okay, well, maybe this is two questions then, because I want to know a little bit about what those dialogues are like. And then also, you've said a couple times, like when I brought up the Philip K. Dick experience, you said that people will be having these experiences more often. It's peppered throughout your book.
Oh, just wait. Just wait.
Just wait till when? Because this is one of those things. People have been saying that
forever. I completely agree. People have been also like fighting the technology rise since 1920. There's a thing called "Should We All Commit Suicide" by Winston Churchill about how technology's taken over from 1924, and it's like we're still fucking doing the same narrative. Like this is all fucking distracting once again from our inner power. But with that said, I got on a small tangent there. When
are we all going to blast off?
So yeah, I don't think that. I actually think it's actually very natural, and I think it is happening gradually. So like, I don't know, but like, I think especially with the plasmoid stuff, like that is pretty recent. Like that gives me a little bit of hope. Like it's happened forever, but with it happening so much more, I really do think it's more now. I mean, tell me what you think.
Well, we used to hear about the indigo children.
Yeah.
And how all these kids were just like basically the 5D self from birth. And it's like, that's
where did
not
they go?
real. Now we have the Gen Z people. It's like the Zoomers are the most captured by technology, and they don't seem to be doing all that well, integrating all that well. We'll see.
I'll make a prediction.
I'm becoming an old man already, I can tell.
I'll make a prediction. I think that we've swung so far in one direction that it's going to become popular to be in places without technology. I think it's going to become cool to not have a phone, to be in more like organic settings, to have more interactive, fun entertainment stuff instead of like the metaverse. And I'm sorry, it's going to be like actual like human meetups I think all of the pendulum's going to swing and bounce back in our lifetime. I also think technology, the singularity point, is actually realizing that there is nowhere to go like we think. And it's about working with this technology and nature. And just like in the book, The Dark Materials, like how using an amber spyglass to see like another dimension, like I think that's real. I think we're going to use organic stuff, and that's a better technology than any fucking machine. And I'm not saying all technology is bad. It's how this podcast is made. It's how we talk on the computer. Like all technology can be amazing when it's used by the right person behind it. So that's why I'm so big on healing the people using these tools, because that's the real problem, is once again us. But as far as like when will it happen, like what I really actually do think in the next 5 years, we are going to have some kind of like weird thing where there's more of these like higher intelligences. And I can't honestly say, I'm just predicting in the next 5 years, something weird will happen. I'm not one of those people that's like, we're going to ascend, like, or the world's going to end. I don't think it's any of that. I think it's a gradual thing. I think we're awakening. I think once again, the light is just as much of a distraction as the dark. And it's more like, if I'm being really honest, like with all that said, what can I do today to live my best life and love the people around me? And how can I bring a little bit of magic to my life today? And I love magic. But I really do think it's in our lifetime. I really do. And I know everyone says that, but you know, we'll just have to see. But then again, that's like a future tripping thing. Like the truth is the magic's here now. And like, I just need to wake up to it in the moment. Like, I'm grateful to be alive. I have power in me. I can do what I want today. Same with you. There's a lot of things to be miserable about if I want to focus on that. And there's a lot of things to enjoy if I want to focus on that.
Fair enough. Well, next time you talk to Lady Plasma, send her my way.
Yeah.
I would love to see a plasma.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that there's like Have you ever had like one or two entities when you were younger you were more connected to, or no? Have you never had anything?
I saw one weird thing in the woods, but when you say entities I was connected to,
Yeah.
no, like archetypal.
Like I can see, yeah, like I can, this is just me being weird, but like there's two kind of like an orange and a blue, like monkey type looking like archetypes in your aura. I don't know what that's.
Oh no.
I don't know if that's like where the wild things are. I don't know if that's like Teletubbies mixed with Bigfoot, like, but it's like some kind of, it's like there's a whimsical connection within your aura that I'm sensing that you can definitely connect to. So maybe just try to have an intention. Hey, let me connect to, things that are for my highest good and just see what comes through. And like my biggest thing is like, we can judge the images we see, but try to just let whatever you see, write it down and then like apply the meaning after. Because a lot of us can try to intellectualize when we see things. And it's like, we can see Jesus and think we're God. It's like, no, it's like if you're seeing that symbol, there's a meaning behind it. So like if you're getting shown images in your head after setting an intention, just write it down and then see what it means after. That's where you can start.
Good advice. And we are wrapping this thing up. But you said orange and what?
Blue.
Orange and blue. What usually
they have tails.
What
and they're going like this.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we did one in person with someone who can see my damn aura. But what are orange and blue usually associated with auras?
Yeah. So funny. I don't know. I think blue is like calm, has to do with the throat chakra. Orange is more like creativity. Orange is like sacral chakra. So it's like, yeah, I would say orange is more like creativity and the blue is more like using your voice. So you are a podcast person. So that makes complete sense, but they're more those colored beings. So maybe the beings are to help you with both of those.
Maybe.
Because plasma and color, there's a lot to do with it. And as I said, this can all sound crazy or it can't. It's really up to you to make meaning of it. But to me, it's like if you connect with the orange one, it probably helps your creativity. The blue one probably helps you with speaking your truth without having to, carefully control what you say, like you said as a kid. So like there's a lot there.
Yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It does seem to all be about our personal stories.
It's all comes back to us. I'm telling you.
All right.
Really
so
does.
As we're wrapping this thing up, what is next for you? How do you plan to take this all forward?
Sure.
Where can people check in with you, get the book, the links, all that good stuff?
So the book comes out September 9th. I don't know when this is coming out, but the book will be out September 9th. DanaKippel.com. You could sign up to be on the email list for when the Amazon link is ready for the book. Or if this is after September 9th, you're listening, just go to Amazon. It's A New Force. Actually, go to my website. I'll probably have a link there. DanaKippel.com. My Instagram is Dana.thealien. My TikTok is at Dana Kippel. What is next for me is I will probably make another science fiction movie down the line. Obviously, that has to probably do with plasma. So that's in my future. And then creating a second and third book, more so on what I call holonic metadynamics, which is kind of a mix of science and metaphysics and psychology, about all these weird things and just seeing what I can invent out of it. And then another book that I'm working on, which is kind of like, I'm going to have to research first, like, putting my money where my mouth is. Like, okay, if I think telepathy is possible, if I think we can use organic material to see in other dimensions, like, let's fucking do it. So just becoming like a female, I would say Nikola Tesla mixed with like whatever female poet there is and being my own Dana.
Okay.
I have a lot of plans.
Yeah, well, it's good to have plans. So many go through the day without any,
Yeah.
and that's why we get stuck in these repetitive ruts, working on someone else's dream.
Yes, I want to be a doer. I don't want to collaborate with someone on supporting their dream. I want to do what I say in my book I think is possible. So like that's what I'm going to spend my life doing, but I also don't want my life to be taken over like a lot of these inventors had. So like if I want to make a movie, I'll make a movie. If I want to go to Outback Steakhouse, I'll go to Outback Steakhouse. If I want to hang out with my friends for a week, I'll hang out with my friends. I'll play The Sims. Like I just want to live my life.
Wow. Don't we all, man? And it just seems so hard to do, but this has been great. Thank you for dropping all this insight from the big old download on us,
Yes,
and for
the
being the
plasma.
first in-studio guest. Pretty
Thanks.
amazing.
Thank
All right.
you.
Cheers. Take care. There it is. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. All right. Not too bad. Another in-studio guest, and one talking about a subject I clearly find very provocative, with knowledge gleaned from essentially a download experience or some spontaneous connection to the field through what sounds like a trauma break, or to be less dramatic, a heightened range of emotions brought on by the end of a relationship. We've all been there. Maybe not all the way there with the plasma connection and all that, but relationships, they come, they go. It's a roller coaster, folks. But it is just another layer to what made this one really interesting to me is how the information and obsession with plasma came to Dana. Well, all things plasma. Did we stick the landing? You decide. I actually recorded this one before Janice McAfee, and the lesson I learned was never record in person without headphones. For me, it's very important. It might sound dumb, but it changes the vibe entirely when I can't hear the intensity that I can with headphones. And then I would watch her moving back and forth or tapping on the table, and I'd think, is this affecting the recording? But yet I couldn't actually hear it, so I wouldn't know, and then it would just distract me, and it's a whole thing. But that's my problem. Overall, I liked it. It drifted a little bit into unpacking my own bullshit, which nobody cares about except maybe for the sake of a example that's universal enough, but whatever. I don't see my marijuana usage as a mask for anything. I mean, is coffee a mask for trauma? It's just another mild effect that I enjoy to relax, the same way I like caffeine to get me going when I'm struggling. I think life is here to be enjoyed, and it's okay to not be an actual straight edge, sober living person, as long as it's not a problem, right? I've done pretty fucking well for an uneducated stoner, and people can have whatever feelings about it they want, I guess. Clearly, I'm high functioning, no pun intended, or at least mid functioning. And I don't record high either. Or I should say, I don't record interviews high. Unless it's Richard Stanley or Rick Simpson, of course. Okay, so I hope you like this one. Content wise, plasma is so hot right now, or at least it should be. I think it's a major missing piece of the cosmic puzzle. I thought we would focus a bit more on high strangeness in this, but it is peppered throughout. The Plus show goes a lot deeper. We talked about our metaphysical world and how our emotions filter our experiences. I think emotions do kind of sometimes seem a bit lame to talk about, but it is a huge dimension to what a person is, and it is a layer that does affect our physiology. And we often aren't really taught much about how to handle that or harness it, even. But we talked about healing past traumas and that retrocausality, that whole thing about how some of our actions can actually influence our past. Strange stuff. But what Dana refers to as 5D awareness got explained, and the concept of demons as our own reflections of our own fears and traumas. Government suppression of this kind of knowledge, you know the drill. It was a bit more about how plasma relates to the self and consciousness and reality at large and all that kind of stuff. And Dana's book is out now, A New Force, link in the show notes. Now, I guess wrap-ups are also places to talk about current events outside of the flow of guests that I have lined up and the topic of the interview itself. And I can say right now, I have the next 3 in the can already recorded. So you're not going to hear any sort of commentary on Charlie Kirk in the interviews for a while. And that's probably fine. Good even, because everyone else is talking about that. But I should say something. And I guess I would say that I don't care what his positions were on anything. Obviously, there's a lot of things we wouldn't agree with. And that's fine. But bringing it up in the context of an assassination is pretty sick. Get your fucking head examined if you're pulling out old quotes of a guy as some kind of justification for saying, see, you don't have to feel bad. Because that's what you're saying when you put that stuff out there. And maybe that's people's way of dealing with some unconscious effect of seeing that goddamn footage. Because it is rough. But yes, he did say that if his daughter was raped at 10 years old, he would have her carry out the pregnancy when he was in a debate, and an extreme hypothetical example was used to try to move him from his position. Who the fuck knows what he would actually do if that really happened? But in a debate about abortion, he's not going to change his position because you came to him with the most extreme, dramatic, over the top example, because that is a debate tactic and it's not real. And the guy was pro life, so he probably would do what he said. Whatever. It's not like he said, "Oh, I would abandon my daughter and make her raise this kid on her own." He probably would be like, "Look, we're going to get through all this together. We are a family. A life's a life. A life's a blessing. Let's deal with it." Which is really not that big of a deal or even bad. People say that is evil. No, the rape is evil. Trying to find a way to make the best out of an awful situation with your family is just, that's what it is. It's not evil. But the rhetoric you see online, it is disgusting. Everybody is saying that now. So I guess some people agree with what I'm saying. It is the thing that has bothered me the most, though, the lack of empathy. It's very gross. He was shot because someone, I think someone powerful, did not like what he was saying. That should worry anyone. Now, I do see a ton of narratives, but the one that makes the most sense to me, and I hate to lay everything at the feet of Israel, but Harrison from InfoWars had tweeted about hearing from someone on Kirk's team that he was worried that they would kill him if he was too critical of Israel. Probably because Turning Point is a big organization. Over 150 million go through them every year. And he's politically activated a lot of people. And yeah, he was very pro-Israel for a long time until he wasn't. And then he was killed a few hours before a vote on the Epstein file release and in the midst of some Israeli aggression in the Middle East. And the whole peace talks with Hamas and Qatar fake out thing that happened. I'm actually reminded that earlier I just heard from my wife that she had read that Israel has made 6 strikes or made strikes on 6 countries already in just the 72 hours since his death, which, sounds like they knew the American media would be a little distracted or something, right? Kirk also hosted a big Turning Point event less than 30 days ago where he did give the floor to several people who criticized what Israel was doing in Gaza, which I think, if you were backed into a corner and you were worried about that kind of stuff, maybe that would be your way of getting the information out there without having to say it yourself. But in the last few weeks, he was increasingly bold and actually saying things that you can find online. He also called for the full release of the Epstein files recently. Surprise, surprise. Who wouldn't, right? But Kirk was a huge asset to Trump and the Republicans, and I don't think that they would just let this happen or do it themselves unless they were forced to put him down because he wouldn't shut up about Epstein and Israel in general. I see these all as little mafias, and I see one boss coming to another and saying, "Hey, we're going to have to put down your boy. He's getting a bit wild out there. And we're going to solve a problem for you at the same time. So why don't you just look the other way?" Netanyahu and Rabbi Shmuley both tweeted that they lost a powerful pro-Israel ally right after he died. And yeah, you did. You lost him ideologically. And then yeah, you got him killed, I think. So it is what it is. Can't go back, but this seemed like a very professional hit. This was not some deranged, pilled up lunatic who happened to outsmart all the security and the police and get away. Just doesn't make any sense. Even the whole notion of a lone gunman. If we look at all the things, we've said this in a lot of examples, the school shootings, the political assassinations, go down the line, they're all set up or well connected to intelligence. And in a way that makes you less fearful out there because you're like, wow, nothing really does happen on its own. Like this whole idea of a random shooter is pretty unheard of. I guess you can be in one of those locations, but a lot of it is well planned and well orchestrated and really can be laid at the feet of just a couple of different organizations. But yeah, Charlie Kirk, He was way more than just a YouTuber or a commentator. Turning Point was a huge organization. The left wishes they had someone like him. I mean, he was really going to put up numbers for the Republicans for a long, long time because he was so young. And there's a speculation that he was killed now because in the next presidential election, he actually would have been of age to run. And if he ran against JD Vance and fucked up that whole plan for the technocrats, that wouldn't have been so good. Secondarily, I do think it functions as a warning for a lot of people to shut up about Israel and shut up about Epstein. It's time to move on to something else, I think is what they are trying to communicate to all the much bigger podcasters and commentators than me out there. And all the gloating. I can't get over the gloating on the left. It's so cringe because this is not even a left versus right thing. This is a higher game. And if you're an American, you should be concerned that this happened. I think of America as my home, or at least my neighborhood. Someone came into my neighborhood and shot someone in cold blood. That disturbs me. I would not gloat about it just because I didn't know them that well or maybe didn't even like that particular neighbor. I want my neighborhood to be safe. So I think with the narrative I kind of laid out there, I am open to alternatives, but it looks pretty case closed. And I thought it was funny. I even saw Alex Jones out there trying to push the trans shooter narrative, which we were set up for. And it's a very convenient thing for people to just grab onto if they expect that sort of thing because of prior incidences. But I saw him trying to push that narrative and steer people away, saying that there's no evidence or reason to think Israel would have done this. And funny enough, I also heard that Alex Jones had an appeal going yesterday for the $1 billion that he owes for the Sandy Hook stuff. He's probably just trying to get back out of trouble by doing whatever he can to suck up to the master. I don't really blame anyone in these situations. You got to do what you got to do, I guess, but best just to keep your distance, really. And there are other weird little details, like the fact that the city of Orem, Utah is being proposed as the site of a $40 billion AI facility, the largest data center campus in the world, from the article I read. Is that relevant? It might be. Maybe Israeli intelligence was already well aware of the terrain because of this scouting for this potential deal. Maybe it made for an easy location. I don't know. But it really is as simple as Charlie Kirk was allowed to say and do anything for a lot of years. But if you look at what changed in his rhetoric in the past few weeks, it was a couple specific things that would bother the kind of people powerful enough to pull this off. And then in the wake of the tragedy, they scrambled to do a lot of other things they would want to do. So there you have it. It's just kind of sad all around. But I also would say that for the people saying all that vile, sick shit, I support their right to free speech too. They can make shitty comments and do whatever they want to do, but I would be cautious about anything I said online that was controversial like that, because we already know people in Europe are getting arrested for online comments. And I've seen some insinuations that the administration might track down these people. You don't want that. I don't want it even when people say disgusting stuff I disagree with. But there's a lot of people with heightened emotions that are looking for a reason. Don't give them one to come at you. You're better off catching a baseball at an MLB game these days. Am I right? But like I kind of tweeted, the real irony, insane, cold, harsh, inappropriate stuff about a guy that was just killed is that a lot of people are holding up these examples of cold, harsh, inappropriate stuff he said, saying that you don't have to care because he sometimes says shitty things. You're saying a shitty thing right now. It's very hypocritical, but they probably don't see the logic because these are broken people. So that's basically all I would say about it. And who cares really what I have to say? Everybody's saying something. But just to avoid the "it's weird that you didn't" comments or the assumption that I hate all Christians, like, let's just get out there and say something, I suppose. Either way, I'm sure it will kick off all kinds of craziness, but you have the next 3 THCs to listen to without it being mentioned because they're already done. Moving on. So the last episode was a nice return from Isaac Weishaupt. Always bring in something juicy, some conspiratorial pop culture stuff. This was no different, and we went really dark in that second hour. I still think about it. I don't like it. I need a break from the screens, to be honest with you. But to me, the Janice McAfee interview and this latest one with Isaac both do push further into things we didn't really know before. Maybe semi kind of dangerous stuff. But hey, I just asked the questions. All right. But that episode was very well liked. 4.8. Killing it. Thank you to all the plus people who have kept the faith and who enjoyed that and rated it well. If you missed that full episode, I would say, of course, sign up for Plus and support a truly independent podcast with no sponsors or ads or managers or agents or network affiliations. It's just me and a couple of freelancers doing the best we can to bring you interesting interviews. $8 or $12 a month, depending on how you decide to consume your THC. But we are kind of, at least I think of myself as like the little conspiracy engine that could. I'm just trying to keep my head down and bring you great interviews and help me help you do that. All right. As for the meetup calendar, let's get into it. I do not know if the CAPTCHA thing has been fixed, but on deck is Sunday, September 14th. Keeping Austin weird at the Sour Duck Market. September 15th, Monday, Galebrath's Ale House in Auckland, New Zealand. September 21st, Tulsa, Oklahoma at Neff Brewing. And Sunday, September 28th at Bunk Bar in Portland, Oregon. So no new ones. That could either mean that nobody gives a shit or it could mean we didn't fix the CAPTCHA problem. I'll look into it. All right. Well, I love it. As Adam Curry says, connection is protection. Find like-minded locals and share in what life's all about. Away from the screens. And that's about it, though. Thanks to Dana for actually taking the time to come to the studio. I think she's doing a good thing by focusing on the plasma issue and all the various layers to it and the science that's out there and applying it to every possible area. I think it's a huge piece of the advanced course of what this stuff is all about. And with that, I guess I'm calling it. Your move, plasma secret keepers, consciousness deniers, and emotional self-suppressors. Your fucking move.
A spark of inspiration said if we build it, they will come. The message was mysterious underneath the midnight sun. The flicker of the fire gave a hint of something there. An outline took its shape. The deeper into it we'd stare. Just following the plan. According to a ritual we could barely understand. We were so curious, we just couldn't put it down. When the steps were all complete, we gathered around, and it said, when the stars align, we'll try to call. Come to the shrine, open the portal. Just like we've instructed you, and this strange conscious connection will ensue. college if you can receive it. Bang the drum and take the groove, just like we've instructed you, and the strange conscious connection will ensue. Take the groove, just like we've instructed you, and this strange conscious connection will ensue. Bang, bang the drum and take the groove, just like